good evening, Mark.
And good evening, Daniel. How are you today?
I'm actually not too bad today. A little nippier than the last time we spoke, but in general, not too bad, thank you.
Yeah, so you cursed it with your 18 degrees inland. It's definitely not that today. We've got our first episode out the way. How do you feel? Are you a bit more relaxed this time? I know I was the nervous one, not you.
I was absolutely, I was biting my nails on the build-up to. Now I'm good. I'm good. You know that these kind of things, we're going to have fun with it, and we're going to include other people, and that's the whole thing. That's the whole point.
Definitely. I mean, people should know this is called Life in Spain Unfiltered, and we're going to try and give you an unfiltered point of view. Try not to be too controversial for the sake of being controversial. Just give us not giving an honest point of view.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to be condescending. We're not going to be really taking it to extreme either. We are going to be generous with our comments both ways.
Well, that brings us nicely with that disclaimer to the subject of today's episode. So, Daniel, what do you think we should talk about today?
Well, it's the same thing as always that just gets on your wick, and it's driving. It's not just Spain. I mean, it's everywhere in the world. Wherever you go, you can have some dodgy drivers, and there are dodgy rules. But because we're in Spain, and because it's just a minefield of stuff, isn't there? Really.
But once again, we should emphasise that we are in Andalusia, right? So we're only generalising about where we are currently find ourselves. But I will expand your driving to driving and parking.
Yeah. Okay. Go on then.
Right. I think knowing you as I know you, I think I've got the idea what your first pet peeve might be about the driving here. And am I wrong to suggest it might be the roundabout?
Or the lack of using them because people don't know how to use them. And the bit that gets me even more is that the longer certain people live here, so i.e. people that do know how to use a roundabout, the more they stop knowing how to use them and they just join in with the rest of them.
Well, I feel like we could I drove to Malaga this morning to visit someone, and I feel we could probably do today's episode about driving just on my journey to Malaga and the roundabouts on the outskirts of Malaga, because that really was I was on the motorbike, and that really was taking my life in my own hands this morning.
Well, it's as we've talked about loads of times about different things with regards to roundabouts. You've got two lanes going into two lanes, or two lanes going into three lanes, or two lanes going into one lane, little roundabout. And unfortunately, the setup, people just don't know. They don't know the rights and wrongs really. They're taught one way in the driving schools, and the Spanish law is quite. Even though we think it's going to change, but it's quite clear that if you can basically go around the outside, so you're in the right-hand lane, the outer lane, as many times as you like. You can go around the roundabout as many times as you like with no indication whatsoever, and only indicate when you're leaving. And even then, they don't do that. So
Well, I can confirm that still happens from about 35 minutes ago when I was coming home this evening. An interesting story about the roundabout, which might have something to do with the driving techniques here and the way they're taught, is probably about 6 months ago. There's a big roundabout near where I live, and I was cut up by a driving school's car, and someone was having a driving lesson, and I honked my horn because they almost knocked me off my motorbike, and the guy got his window down, stuck his finger up of the window, and gave me a one finger salute. So I don't know if that's part of the test here. I'm not sure if you get an extra bonus point for that, but I was like, oh my goodness.
was it the driver or was it the instructor?
It was the driving instructor, so he was setting an example, I feel.
Can you imagine? Imagine doing that in the UK. You just get failed.
We've laughed and joked about it for years about driving, because we both drive motorbikes. And the strange thing here is with the roundabout thing, it's completely different to the rest of the world. I don't know the story behind it, and maybe someone can put it in the comments section. But why does Spain have a completely different way of looking at the world of roundabouts to the rest of the world?
And it baffles me as well, because you'd think, you would have thought that European countries that in the European Union should have the same road rules and road laws. That's why there are so many accidents, because visiting, well, not just tourists, but people that come and spend 3 or 4 months here, they have to adjust to the way of riding and driving over here, which is not an easy task, especially when you go through towns that all of a sudden they've taken the traffic lights away and put a little small roundabout or island there, and no one really knows how to use it properly.
I've seen there's a couple of there's a roundabout up near where I go to the gym, and I would say 50% of the people go round that the wrong way because it's been put off to one side, so it's actually easier just to go straight. You think, oh my goodness, what's going on here? Right, let's move away from the wonderful world of roundabouts. In fact, you know what? I reckon we could do a double episode on driving here because I'm sure people are be interested there about drink driving as well and changing of driving license and things like that. But I'm now going with my pet peeve, which is not so much the lack of parking here, which is a whole debate in itself, because the town halls here in Andalusia seem to be obsessed with taking away the parking. But the fact that not only do you get double parking, you get triple parking, and you get double parking done by motorbikes.
By motorbikes, by lorries, by vans that are delivering. I mean, I was caught out yesterday when I was leaving work, and this lorry had stuck in a one-way section with one lane. So it's one way. You can't. It's a little square, and he'd stopped, turned his engine off, and he was loading barrels when he could have just gone round the corner into the car park area and not blocked any traffic whatsoever. And he's carrying these barrels out. There were 20 cars waiting. And I said, "Do you think you could just go around there and then not be in the way?" And he went, I go ahead. Like, hang on a second, it's just common sense. It's just common sense. And we're not just having a go at Spanish here. I mean, it happens with a lot of people. The double parking and triple parking. Like, as I said before, there are a lot of people that are picking up those bad habits, and it's not just Spanish.
I have an English friend here. Hello, Richard, who is he's always defending the fact that he can double park, and it drives me nuts. I can't double park. It's like against my religion. But I have to confess, I double parked once. Now, I used to own a bar here, and I used to have a cigarette machine that I had to stock up. And in the middle of July, my motorbike was out of action, and I was forced to use my car. Now, anybody knows the seafront on the Costa del Sol, in most parts of the summer, it's just chaos. So I couldn't find a parking spot anywhere, and I literally double parked outside the Estanco. I was like Usain Bolt, in and out, buying tobacco. And then 2 months later, in the post, I got a fine that I double parked. Now, my wife still mentions that to this day, every day. She calls me you never double park. And any person who deserves not to be done for double parking is you. Fair enough, I double parked. 100% record of getting done for double parking. I go past that Estanco all the time, and I see police cars double parked at it. Even police cars double parked over the zebra crossing outside of it.
That really riles me. That rattles me because they're the ones that are supposed to be setting an example. I recently I got a substitute bike because mine was getting service. I parked my bike on private property. It was on the pavement, but it's private property, and it was against the wall, so it wasn't in the way or anything like that. And it got a fine. And I've contested it, and it has been quashed because I've taken other pictures of other people and the police cars in that area going for breakfast, and they're parked on the pavement and parked in disabled places. I understand that they have a job to do and anything else, but come on, guys. I mean, it's not one rule for one and one rule for the other.
I had a friend here who had a Spanish friend who had the great idea of making a coffee table book of photographs of police cars parked in various areas. A great book. But I tell you that another thing which is used as an unofficial parking spot here is the bus stops. Now, that must drive you crazy, Dan, because I know what you're like.
Well, listen, we're both. When it comes to things like that, it gets on both our nerves. But I mean, what sense is there for having drop-off places and specific places for deliveries and offloading and unloading that they have to take a bus stop, and then the bus, no beeping of horns, no creating a fuss, no waiting, no, it just stops in the middle of the road, stops the traffic in both directions if need be, because you've got someone double parking in front of the van as well. It's. I know we're talking about extremes, but it's.
But you said that in Los Boliches here, where I am, there's a lovely high street, Los Boliches High Street, with a lovely, beautiful church in there. You know the one, and there's a big bus stop there. But the road itself is single, one direction, and there must be up to 8 or 9 cars parked on that bus stop any moment of the day, and no one ever gets done for it. The bus always stops on the road. It causes chaos because the cars stand the queue back. Then it gets to fix the traffic lights. And I'm always like, will someone just put a camera up here? Because you could pay for your Christmas parties for the next 15 years just in one afternoon.
Easily. That again, that's something that I don't understand. Why is it allowed? Why are they not? I think it all comes down to policing. It all comes down to numbers. They haven't got the numbers. There is that much. The infrastructure is so big now. They just haven't got the staff to be able to police the areas.
But well, when I got done, it was a photograph. So I presume a motorbike or something. A police car have gone by with a camera on it. I think most police cars have cameras mounted on it. Maybe you should mount them on the buses. I don't know. But it's almost like it's a unwritten rule that you're okay if you're buying bread or tobacco, that you can double park. Or the pharmacy. The pharmacy is just right. I mean, we all can agree that all over the world, outside of school, it's always going to be chaos with double parking. Yeah. But the bread shop, the tobacco shop, I don't really get that.
No, me neither. But touching on the school thing, if we took like a little page out of the book of the States where they have bays where the cars can drive into, and then you've got certain areas. There have been some schools that have done this in Madrid, for example, also in Barcelona. But Andalusia seems to, when they're building, because the schools are in very condensed areas, dense population areas, there's not much room. They can't do it. They can't create a specific lane for that.
Well, I was going up to Arroyo the other day, and what's the park called there? Parque de Paloma, no?
Paloma, yeah.
Yeah, and at the top of that, there's a school there. And I did notice there was a drop-off area. They actually had a drop-off area there for kids, which I'd never seen before in Spain. So maybe things are changing from that thing. The only way to change people here is to basically start finding them for doing it. I understand there's people will stop and drop a letter off or something like that. It happens, but when it gets to the state that they're leaving the keys in the car and the engine's running, it's a bit mad, really.
No, exactly.
It's like a soundtrack. It's a soundtrack to our lives in the summer. People honking their horns. Yeah, because someone's blocked them in, double parking. Yeah.
Well, prime example was today where I work. The underground garage, the underground parking, the out, so the exit. There were 3 cars on the ramp waiting to get out because an Amazon van was parked directly on it, covering it completely, and the driver wasn't there. The van was open. He was delivering parcels upstairs and oblivious.
Well, I came back from the Miramar this afternoon, and I got to that horrendous roundabout there, and a van actually stopped to drop somebody off and blocked the lane of traffic. So double parked on a roundabout, mate. So there you go, 2 for 1 for you, 2 for 1.
I know. We can talk about things like this because the amount of times we've seen it, because it happens so many times. But again, it comes down to the lack of policing. It comes down to we've said in the past, you know when it's coming up to Christmas, you know when it's coming up to certain events because they're trying to cash in a little bit of money into the town halls and stuff. It's not that easy now, and it's not that common. But it's definitely an issue about policing and not having the numbers out there because it's happening all the time and everywhere.
I think it's something we're going to need to touch on. I think we're definitely going to have to do another episode on this because we haven't even mentioned the toll roads and the drink driving and things like that. Because here there are some serious issues, which the drink driving here is actually something quite serious. And even though it is getting better, it really needs to. That's something that needs to be looked at quite seriously. I mean, we touched on that on a different episode. You've been here for how many years now?
37.
I've been here for coming up to 23. I've been breathalyzed once. You?
I've been breathalyzed 3 times.
Well, there you go. And that's something I know plenty of people who've been stopped and been over the limit, and they've been given a bottle of water and said, walk around over there for 20 minutes, and then they drive off. But we'll save that for a different episode. I think we're going to be doing driving and parking part 2.
the driving with various things, lights, for example. We could talk about the lack of lights on certain cars and driving without lights. People driving with their fog lights on at night when there's no fog and it's not even raining, and which apparently is illegal. I need to check that one, but apparently it's illegal.
Well, it sounds like I've had the most eventful day ever because I was telling you, ranting before we start recording this, how I almost got hit by a car with no lights. So I've seen it quite a lot today.
Yeah. No, they're definitely.
It's what people I like to know because we're speaking from our experiences here in Andalusia, and especially in Malaga province. But people can put in the comment section their own experiences driving in Spain. Maybe the north of Spain in the Basque Country, they're like a perfect example of driving. I don't know. I had quite a horrendous time in the tunnel system under Madrid. That's the first time I came across that. Was quite horrendous. And you're like, I need to go to that street. And there's 4 signposts pointed to the same street. You're like, what?
Not going under Rayo Vallecano, then, no?
I've tried to block that experience out of my memory completely. Okay, look,
that area is great.
I think we're doing another episode. I say what? So we'll come back and do another driving episode, and
for sure.
I want to start off by talking about the drink driving here, because I think we should talk about that. That's an
Oh, for
interesting.
sure. It definitely needs to be addressed because it's an important one.
And before we sound too negative, we must remember there are some fine Spanish, both Formula One drivers and exceptional amount of MotoGP Superbike drivers. So
Oh,
we're not
indeed.
being negative. So maybe all this speeding and this bad driving is giving them the edge in these championships. Who knows?
For sure, for sure. Don't forget, if you are watching us on YouTube, those little things down there that say follow and comment, and you can click on those and join in. And by all means, please do. And if you are watching on any other platform, then it's either up there or down there, and you can join in and let us know what you think, what's your thoughts, what you're thinking about, what would you like us to talk about. Have you got an example of something that we've said, and you're going, well, hang on a second, it's not quite like that, it's quite like that. We'll share it with us, and we'll be more than happy to discuss it.
Yeah, I'm quite open to debate anything here. I said we're both very open-minded souls, I think, and we tell it as we see it. But it doesn't mean that we're right, and I'm sure people are going to disagree with what we're saying. But that's what makes interesting debate, and I'm willing to hear and take other people's opinion on board.
As am I. So we'll leave it for
Brilliant.
another day, and good chatting, mate.
You too, mate. You have yourself a lovely evening.
And you.